Yo, I'm Yovan Buha, Lakers beat writer for The Athletic, and welcome to another Lakers post-game reaction show. I just got back from Crypto.com Arena where the Lakers just beat the Indiana Pacers 150 to 145. Yes, that is a real score. And no, the game did not go into overtime. That was a regulation score between these two teams. They put up 295 combined points. These are two of the best offensive teams in the league, two of the worst defensive teams in the league, at least from the Lakers end over the last couple months. They're two of the fastest teams in terms of pace. And it was a weird game because it didn't have the theatrics of a typical high-scoring regular season game. It didn't really have, from the moment the Lakers took control of this game in the third quarter, really was never in doubt. The Pacers did make it interesting. They were being very difficult and pesky late in the fourth, just coming down, hitting three after three after three, intentionally fouling the Lakers and making it a game a little bit. I think they got within 3 or 4 at one point. But the Lakers, despite trailing by 11 points late in the first quarter, come back to not only win this game, but win it in rather convincing fashion. Lakers trailed 36 to 30 at the end of the first. They outscore the Pacers 42 to 32 to take a 4-point lead at halftime. They outscore them again 44 to 31 in the third, and then they get outscored 46 to 34 in the fourth quarter. So the Lakers go from allowing just 18 points against the Philadelphia 76ers on Friday in the fourth quarter to allowing 46 against the Pacers in the fourth quarter on Sunday. But the big thing with this win is the Lakers are now 39 and 32. They are 7 games above 500 for the first time this season. And then on top of that, the Golden State Warriors ended up losing to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They blew a double-digit fourth quarter lead, and now they are 36 and 34. So they're 3 games back in the win column from the Lakers, 2 games back in the loss column, and 2.5 games back overall. So after talking about it last post-game reaction show, that the Lakers were in the driver's seat, so to speak, for the number 9 seed, not only are they in the driver's seat, but they are speeding on the highway. And again, this can change at any moment. If the Lakers drop a couple games on this upcoming road trip, the Warriors get hot, they win that game against the Lakers on April 9th. Like, this could eventually flip. But for now, the Lakers look to be in command of that number 9 seed. And it's still a bit of a gap there between them and the rest of the West in terms of trying to move up to like number 7 or number 8. The Kings and the Suns and the Mavericks and the Pelicans continue to win. It's looking unlikely that the Lakers move up higher than 9 unless they just basically go undefeated the rest of the season, which is within the realm of possibility. I would say unlikely, but it is possible. But more and more, it's looking like they're going to be the number 9 seed, which means they're going to host Golden State in that 9-10 game, most likely. Although, look out for the Houston Rockets, who are 35 and 35. They've won 9 of 10 games on an 8-game win streak, the hottest team in the NBA right now. Draymond Green was asked about them after the game, and said he said he doesn't give a bleep about them. Or I'm paraphrasing, but that was the spirit of his quote. And we'll see. I mean, they're right there. Like the Warriors are only 2 games above 500. The Rockets are playing the Blazers next. If they win that game, they're a game above 500 now. So the Rockets are making this 9 and 10 race a bit interesting. It was looking like it was just the Lakers and the Warriors, but the Lakers again now 7 games above 500. It's going to be really hard for them to. It's not impossible. We've seen some rough stretches from them, but like it's going to be hard for them to get back down to 500 or to even get close to it, really. So the Lakers are in a good spot to at least secure the number 9 seed, if not go a little bit higher if one of those teams above them slips up here in the next couple weeks. But that's enough of that. Let's get into the 3 takeaways from tonight's game. Quickly, I just want to say thank you for watching this video on YouTube or listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, your podcast platform of choice. If you're a returning subscriber/listener, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And if you're new to my channel or new to my podcast feed, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you consider either hitting that subscribe button or hitting that follow button, and hopefully enjoying more of my content. So takeaway number 1 is styles make fights. And what I mean by that is you had 2 contrasting styles in the Lakers wins this weekend. First, you had a ugly, muddy, just slugfest against the Sixers. Lakers win 101-94, and they allow their fewest points to an opponent since December 7th against the Pelicans. That was the in-season tournament semifinals. The Pelicans only scored 89 points. So their fewest points in 3.5 months, and really one of the few times we can say the Lakers have won with their defense in recent weeks, really recent months. The Lakers have largely been doing it as an offensive unit, an elite offense. And of course, you need to get stops, and the Lakers have, especially in crunch time, been able to lock in. And that's where having Anthony Davis on the back line and engage and focus LeBron James and some different perimeter options to go to defensively. Like, that's where I think on a per possession basis, the Lakers can really lock in and be an elite, or at least be a good enough defense for short stretches. It's really the longer stretches that have been the issue for this group. And that's what you saw Sunday against the Pacers, but then the Lakers won in a shootout, and they did so by getting to the free throw line a lot. They attempted 43 free throws, which tied their season high. It was their season high in regulation, though, because their previous season high of 43 came in that double overtime win in Golden State in late January. So they got to the free throw line a lot. They didn't even make that many threes. They were just, I believe they were 12 for 25. But they had 4 guys drop 25 or more. So you had AD, 36 points, 16 rebounds. He's absolutely destroyed the Pacers this season in their 2 matchups. You had Austin Reeves with 25 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. LeBron James, 26 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists. And Spencer Dinwiddie getting the start for D'Angelo Russell, who missed the game with a non-COVID illness, was a late scratch. And the Lakers had entered this game 0-5 this season when D'Angelo Russell misses a game, and Spencer steps in and finishes with 26 points, his Laker high, and 5 assists. And to me, had an incredible game, also had a steal, also had a couple blocks. So he continues to provide his trademark defense, which has become his calling card as a Laker player, being a defender, and then offensively being more of a connector type. But tonight, he got going in the pick and roll. He got downhill a lot, got to the free throw line a bunch, was 8 of 9 at the free throw line. So he was second on the team in terms of free throw attempts, behind Austin Reeves, who got going in the third quarter and helped spark that Lakers second half run that really put them ahead decisively. So I thought I'm going to get into Spencer more. I'm going to get into AD more in the following takeaways, but just wanted to lay out some of the numbers. Taurean Prince came in, returned from missing a game on his birthday for personal reasons, had 14 points, had a couple key stretches there where I think he had 7 points in the final 3 minutes going into halftime, which helped put the Lakers ahead, and had a couple nice finishes. I think he made a couple threes, and I thought competed well defensively, was active on the glass, only finished with 2 rebounds. Cam Reddish came in and played well defensively. Like Max Christie hit a 3. Jackson Hayes came in and did Jackson Hayes things. So Ruby had a quiet night, did play 30 minutes, but only had 9 points and 5 rebounds. But like overall, this was a really solid group effort. I mean, to put up 150 points, you need guys making shots, and the Lakers shot overall 56.2%, 48% on threes, 88.4% on the free throws. They made 38 of their 43 attempts. Only had 10 turnovers in comparison with 28 assists. And again, I mentioned it last game, and it was kind of odd because once again, the Lakers were outscored on fast break points, 15-6. They were outscored in second chance points, 24-10. That's a pretty big margin there. And then points in the paint were basically even. LA won that 70-68. But it really was the free throw line where they shot 43 attempts. The Pacers only shot 16, and Indiana went 9 for 16 in comparison with LA going 38 for 43. So they had a plus 29 advantage in terms of free throws made. And that was ultimately the difference here was the Pacers could not stop fouling. They had 5 players with at least 4 fouls. Overall, they fouled 31 times to the Lakers 14. Now, some of that could be a bad whistle against the Pacers. I'm There are a few times where they drove and I felt they didn't get the same whistle that the Lakers got on the other end. At the same time, LeBron and AD typically don't get great whistles for their style of play and their status in the league as top 10, top 12 guys. I mean, LeBron was 8 for 8, AD was 5 for 5, but LeBron had a couple drives that easily could have been foul calls. AD had several plays around the rim. I think one play late where Pascal Siakam basically slaps him right in front of a ref and AD lays it up and doesn't get the and one. I will say, like, overall, I think the Pacers have some reason to be upset with the free throw disparity. Like, even because, again, you look at it with the points in the paint. I mean, now granted, like, Lakers didn't get certain baskets or points in the paint because the Pacers were fouling them. So, like, if the Pacers didn't foul them as much, maybe the Lakers have 80 points in the paint again, similar to the in-season tournament. But I think that the Pacers have a little bit to gripe with, if we're being honest, about the free throw disparity and how the game was ultimately called. But that's also just comes, that's par for the course with playing the Lakers, right? Like, this is how they play. This is how they thrive offensively, is they just live in the paint. They have guys who initiate contact, who play with a certain level of physicality, guys who are difficult to defend. And because they can get downhill so easily, you typically have to foul them. And then if you have LeBron or AD as the roll man, and they're now catching a pass in motion and going toward the rim, like, they're going to get fouled, or those guys are going to draw attention, and then they're going to create open opportunities for their teammates, or maybe their teammates are the ones who are slipping or cutting into space, and then they get fouled. But an incredible offensive explosion for the Lakers. This was, probably should have said it earlier, this was a season high, if you hadn't guessed. Definitely a season high in regulation, but season high overall. It was actually the most points the Lakers have scored since 1987. The thing to take away from this weekend for LA is they showed that they can win in different ways, which is going to be really important on this road trip and just really important for them to make a playoff run. Most of the games, I know there's been an incredible offensive explosion this year, but most of the games are going to be like that Philly game where it's an ugly, grinded out game in the fourth quarter, in the 90s or into the hundreds, but you're not really going above 115 to 120 that often in the playoffs. I could be wrong, and that could be the case this season, where just the offensive explosion continues. But with foul calls going down, with the pace slowing down somewhat, and shot making just becoming a little bit more difficult, I am skeptical of teams scoring 150 in regulation in the playoffs. Again, we'll see. But I think Lakers have to figure out how to win in both ways. And they've been winning more so in the offensive way, and not to this extent, but more so just being a dominant offense and not necessarily having to get stops consistently. But on Friday, they won with their defense. And I think it was a good reminder for them of the way that they're probably going to have to start playing a little bit more as the playoffs approach. Takeaway number 2 is this is why the Lakers signed Spencer Dinwiddie. And Dinwiddie has been a bit of a divisive player among the fan base. People have looked at his shooting numbers and his lack of offensive production and criticized him, criticized the Lakers signing him, criticized Darvin Ham for playing him in certain roles and certain minutes. But I think Spencer, he's led the team in plus minus since joining them. And that's not the end all be all. But as I've said before in this space, like, he's become a glue guy for the Lakers. He's become a connector, and he makes the extra pass. He does the little things. He cuts, he screens, he spaces the floor properly. He's always monitoring that. He's a very high IQ role player. And sure, he could shoot the ball better. He could be better offensively. I think the Lakers, as I've said before, could also run more stuff for him and try and use him in more creative ways. But Spencer has embraced a role that he's not often had to do, at least since he's become a rotation player. Like, he's kind of had a certain role as a sixth man type, or as like a secondary ball handler, scorer for most teams that he's been on, be it Brooklyn or the Mavericks or the Nets again. And he's shown a level of versatility and adaptability with the Lakers that I think has gone largely underappreciated. And it's funny because this week LeBron James and JJ Redick launched the Mind the Game podcast, and it's supposed to be about the X's and O's and the stuff, teaching fans different things about basketball and all that stuff. And I think Spencer Dinwiddie and your opinion of his game is sort of a reflection of that. Because if you're just going off of scoring and percentages, yes, I admit and I acknowledge like that stuff could be better. And I think he's more of a rhythm guy where he's better when the ball is in his hands. I think you saw that tonight, obviously by the 26 points. And that catch and shoot role can be hit or miss for him. And he's had some better games recently, but like the Lakers are going to need a certain level of shooting and offensive production from him if he's going to play a large role in a potential playoff run. But overall, I think his attitude has been great. When he talks to us, like he is fully embracing being more of a 3-and-D guy. That's essentially what has been a 3-and-D guard. He's basically taken the Gabe Vincent role, but been able to scale up and allow the Lakers to play 3-guard lineups that have been rather successful. The lineups with Spencer, D'Lo, and Austin, those 3-guard lineups have actually been a net positive overall. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like all season so far over the past, month and a half, they've been positive. So Spencer's come in and he's just been nothing but a net positive. And again, I think the catch and shoot numbers could be better. He could be better as a second side guy, as a secondary playmaker and ball handler. I think he's been more of like the third or fourth option in most lineups that he's played. But tonight we saw it. With him as more of the initiator. I went back and watched all of his offensive possessions, and the Lakers were just using him more in clearing out the strong side, putting 3 guys on the weak side, and letting him use AD as a screener. And there were times where the Pacers either miscommunicated or they committed to AD. And with those openings, Spencer was able to get downhill for a couple of uncontested finishes. Off the ball, he was able to relocate into open threes and just had the ball in his hands a bit more and amassed more of D'Lo's role. Obviously, not the level of shooter or even shot creator that D'Lo's been this season, but it showed that in a larger role. Like Spencer had the quote last week at practice that he was talking about, like, don't forget, like, I'm still that guy. And he's quick to remind us that he's been top 5 in the league in ISO points per possession and different things throughout his career. And he came out and backed it up tonight. He came out and showed us that in a larger role, he can do things like this. So I think the key for the Lakers moving forward is figuring out ways to unlock this version of Spencer. Of course, when D'Lo returns, he's going to be the starting point guard, as he should be. But I think the Lakers need to find ways to run more pick and roll and maybe stagger the rotation a little bit to get Spencer and AD going a bit more as they did tonight. I think there is a difference with having Jackson Hayes as a screener versus AD. And getting Spencer going downhill, I think it just unlocks another guy who can finish at the rim, draw fouls, and I think this version of Spencer on both ends can really help the Lakers. So I think this could be a turning point potentially for LA and just having the actual film and the data on this is what we can do with Spencer when we use him in a certain way. So I thought this was clearly Spencer's best game of the season. And to me, a reminder that having this guy as like your 5th or 6th option, because it's between him and Rui for that 5th spot in terms of just offensive hierarchy, this is a pretty good dude and is at a different level than a Taurean Prince or a Cam Reddish or a Max Christie or potentially even a Gabe Vincent, depending on the condition that he comes back in. Definitely better than Jared Vanderbilt from that regard. And really, Jackson Hayes and even a Christian Wood. So like Spencer is legitimately the 5th or 6th best scorer on this team on a given night. Given Rui's role as the starter and just given how many minutes he's going to play, I think Spencer's more like the 6th option, but he could be a quality 6th man for this team. And I think he has been. It just hasn't been reflected in the ways that people have wanted, which has been the offensive totals, the shooting percentages. And again, I'll keep saying it, like that stuff matters. I'm not going to outright dismiss it, but I think he's done other stuff as a glue guy, as a connector that has really helped this group. And tonight he stepped up in a big way as a scorer. And finally, takeaway number 3 is Anthony Davis just owns the Indiana Pacers. If you remember, he had 41 points and 20 rebounds in the in-season tournament championship game against them. A game that sadly did not count for AD in terms of the box score and his averages. But in my book, it counted. And if you look at him, again, having tonight 36 points, 16 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. If you look at the averages, he's averaging 38.5 points and 18 rebounds against the Pacers across those 2 matchups. And this was the best version of AD. This was one of his best games of the season. Obviously, that in-season tournament championship game was better. I think the Minnesota game was better, but it was in the conversation for not quite top 2 or 3 game, but probably like his 4th or 5th or 6th best game of the season. And the Lakers now have the blueprint against the Pacers of they need to spam AD and continue to do it. And I could envision them going into Indiana and for whatever reason going away from it, because that's sometimes what this group does, is they go away from things that work and they go away from it. Like they went away from AD in the second quarter, and part of it was he got in foul trouble. But like I tweeted out, last time AD played, 41 points, 20 rebounds. Like, what's he going to drop tonight? Then he drops 15 and 8 in the first quarter. And I mean, that's on pace for 60 points and 32 rebounds. Knew he wasn't going to do that, but I was like, all right, could he get a 40-20 again? Like maybe. I mean, he nearly did. But then at halftime, he only had 15 points and 9 rebounds. And so goes scoreless in the second quarter, grabs 1 rebound. And part of that was Darvin sat him the last few minutes of the second because he picked up his 3rd foul. But part of it was the Lakers continually go away from AD for whatever reason. And then when they finally started spamming him in the 3rd and 4th quarters, you saw the results of the Pacers. Just not only could they not hang with him from a physicality perspective, he was able to bang whoever was defending him and just kind of pound them and push them around. But they couldn't hang with him from a foot speed and athleticism perspective either. So he blew by Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, Obi Toppin, Jalen Smith, and Isaiah Jackson. The Pacers are just so bad defensively. You know, I really like Aaron Nesmith. I think the Pacers miss Benedict Mathurin, and Siakam and Turner are like they're a long athletic-ish front court. They do have a lot of size, and they've been a better defensive rebounding team. But like Anthony Davis just feasts in this matchup, and the Lakers need to continue to run pick and rolls with him. And as I mentioned in the Spencer portion, like he was able to get downhill and get uncontested dunks and layups because the Pacers were so nervous about Anthony Davis. And in the half court, able to spin out for lobs, able to get some deep seals and post ups in transition and draw fouls or finish at the rim. So like AD had a completely dominant game. This is one of his best games, probably his best game since the Timberwolves game again. And now the Lakers have the blueprint of when they play Indiana on Friday. They cannot go away from Anthony Davis. They need him to have another game with 30 plus points, 35 plus points. And if they do that, they have a really good chance of winning on the road and going like 4-2 or 5-1 on this road trip. If they don't, I think they're going to lose that game, barring LeBron going off for 45 or Austin or D'Lo having it going. Like, I just think they need to spam AD and feature him heavily against this team, because the other thing is, Miles Turner got in foul trouble again early, and when Miles Turner gets in foul trouble, like he's the one guy that can bother AD slightly just with his length and his shot blocking and his rim protection. And if he's out, this defense is like worst in the league level defense. So I think the Lakers got to continually just, again, keep going to AD, try and get the Pacers bigs in foul trouble and just break down that defense, because the second you get Miles Turner out of there, it's just... It's a layup line. So that'll do it for tonight's episode. By the time you are watching or listening to this, episode 7 of Buha's Block might be out. I will be previewing the Lakers' upcoming 6-game East Coast road trip. I go through each team, each matchup, some of the strengths and weaknesses for each team, how they've been playing recently, recent injuries, recent results, and talk about the keys for the Lakers and how I envision each matchup going, and then get into some larger things with the Lakers' home road splits and how important this road trip is overall. So be sure to watch and or listen to that once it's out. It should be out early or late Monday morning. We'll see. I'm trying to get it out early, but I'll conservatively say late Monday morning. So be on the lookout for that. And thank you again for watching. If you enjoyed it and are watching on YouTube, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or another podcast platform, please consider following, downloading, and leaving a 5-star review. Thank you guys again, and I will talk to you soon.